But the question is, why deal with the past? For us working in this field, we often get the question like, why do you have to focus on past? Why don't you just focus on future, better future? Well, unfortunately, past, present, and future are not as divided as one would think or hope. The events of the past do affect the present, and then altogether they do have an impact on the future. If you look at the 90s, the war in Kosovo, 1998-99, or the other wars in ex-Yugoslavia, of course they do have the dimensions of political, social, economical, and other dimensions. But what should not be neglected is also the role that not dealing with the past, for example, of Second World War, or the periods before that, played in the events of the 90s. And have we learned our lessons? Well, we are witnesses that not only in Kosovo, but in all the region, public discourses are dominated by nationalist and ethnocentric narratives about the wars, glorifications. Collective memory is being shaped by victimization, neglect, denial, prejudices, polarization, some of them also mentioned by Besa. Therefore, one could conclude that not really. We have not learned the lessons, and scholars would even argue that these patterns do not contribute to better future being established. The last 25 years, Kosovo went through different post-conflict processes, phases, and important political processes. However, what needs to be highlighted is that besides the political level processes, also the social level is very important and crucial. And one could say that the dialogue between these two levels was not existing, or it was not in a very satisfactory level. An example mentioned also earlier.
It's truly a pleasure to be with you today. Looking around, I see many familiar faces, people I had the privilege to work alongside, and those who have been on the front line of the work we're here to discuss, dealing with the past in Kosovo. We are here to dive into the thoughtful research presented by Florian Bieber, Marina Hulovic, and Donika Emini. Their paper is more than just an academic exercise, it's also a reality check. It shows us where we've come in the 25 past years and where we still need to go. And what better way to reflect on this by also celebrate Forum CFD's valuable work during these years. Dealing with the past, as we all know, is not a process with a finish line, it's a journey. Or one that sometimes feels long and challenging, but absolutely necessary. Transitional justice is about the right to know, access to reparations, and the work of transitional justice, memorization, and promoting youth engagement is not just about looking back. It's about building the foundation for a shared future. And I think dealing with the past is also not allowing people in inclusive ways, not allowing people using wrong narratives and using as a weapon, as we can often see. The Kosovo government adopted a transitional justice strategy recently. That is very commendable. But we remain concerned that the principle of an inclusive and victim-centered approach has not been fully reflected throughout that strategy. We share the criticism of EU and civil society that the strategy mainly focuses on victims of the majority community. As the paper reminds us, there's still a lot of work to be done. The absence, for example, of a compensation fund for all war victims, for example, as demanded by the Kosovo Specialist Chambers, and in the EU Progress Report it is mentioned this is key that Kosovo assesses this inequality of treatment. And the need to address the atrocities of all communities equally are gaps that need attention. Without these steps, reconciliation remains incomplete. My country too has faced a similar path. As we approach 80 years since the end of World War II, we continue to reflect on our past. The process, I would say, never stops. With each generation it grows, evolves, and challenges us to do better. What we've seen in Kosovo is that dealing with the past isn't just about strategies or policies. It's about people. People like all of us who are here today
25 years old now who have no memory of the war, no personal memory of the war. So it's a good time to kind of look back. I mean, I was also thinking in the discussions, the ambassador was reflecting on the history of Germany, where this 25 years after the Second World War in Germany, we are talking about the 1960s, the late 1960s, when critical debates began in Germany really about what happened during the war. These debates, of course, have been ongoing in Kosovo and across the region throughout the last 25 years. This is not the beginning, but there's been a long journey already, which allowed us to look back on. But let me kind of set what I think are the key background elements. Now, the first one is that dealing with the past is dealing with the present. And this makes dealing with the past a particular challenge in Kosovo as well as elsewhere, because it's not just about dealing with something which happened a quarter of a century ago, but it has profound contemporary relevance. From discussions of relations with Serbia, the dialogue as it's often called, to other elements of regional relations, but also in other countries of the region, talking about the past means talking about the present. Relations, whether it's inter-ethnic relations, whether it is political claims. So it is not just about a past-oriented process, but one which is very much dominated by the present. And that makes actually this dialogue harder, because it's not just about memory, it's not just about acknowledging responsibilities or hearing the voices of victims, but it's also about claim making on the present. And that, in fact, makes this process more difficult, and we'll talk more about the dialogue in particular and how this whole process of dealing with the past and the dialogue is a very complicated and challenging relationship.
Saying before, to kind of enable